Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Attack series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and today, well, I was doing some work on the Pirc, the Pirc rather, whilst playing through a rather long series of draws, I noticed that one of the games had ended in a win for Stockfish, and well, when I played through the reason why, I was just so astounded I felt I had to share it with you. It's one of those games that demonstrate once again, you know, when people ask me, why do you just play engine games? Well, I just show them something like this, and then you realise that when you've seen this, you just never forget it. And that also helps you learn the opening that you're looking at the time as well. So this is the position after 95 moves. White's just played rook c2. Yeah, looks completely drawn at first glance, but you do realise that White's got quite a nice target in the a5 pawn, so he could potentially triple up against that one and win the pawn. The only problem is that yeah, there's always going to be some counterplay. Black's got the h-file, and the f3 pawn is weak. So yeah, I mean, the bishop on g3 is a little bit of a tricky piece. In some ways, it's more active than if it was on e7. On the other hand, it's also not doing that much on g3, and it's not providing, of course, any defense of the black king side. So yeah, you know, not 100% clear. So in this position, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm playing 15 plus 3 games, and well, after 95 moves, the engines were probably just down to increments here. And Dragon played the slightly incautious rook h3. Yeah, move probably like something like queen b7, just waiting, or yeah, some king move, whatever. That would have been the best. But rook h3 was played, and in principle, it's a decent idea. You're just getting ready to attack the f3 pawn. So when White attacks the a pawn, well, you're already ready with a counterattack. However, this leads to some of the most amazing play that I have ever seen. I know I keep on saying that with every video, but somehow it's true. The engine games just keep on getting more and more amazing. Because obviously one thing that you notice is that yeah, the rook is now undefended. So queen stacking the rook. So that does actually give White the possibility of this move, which is b4. We break with b4, and if a takes b4, then of course queen takes a8 is very strong for White. That comes because the rook's on h3 and not on h8. However, I mean, you look at this move c takes b4, and you sort of think, well, yeah, okay, you know, I mean, it's not that amazing, is it? I mean, if I go bishop b4, black goes something like queen e3, gets the queen active, attacking f3, you know, it's going to be fine. Actually, the engines were just making a draw by repetition in this way. So it looks like absolutely nothing. But maybe you want to sort of take a minute or something just to try and see what Stockfish actually did here, because yeah, I was somewhat surprised. Let me put it that way. Because what Stockfish did was play the move bishop takes e5 check, which is just simply incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can barely believe it. I mean, even now looking at it, and I've run hundreds of engine games in all sorts of positions with all sorts of moves, and I still barely believe it. Actually, I run it on Chessify Leela. That's BT4. So latest iteration of Leela, and I was sort of thinking, well, I'll laugh at Mr. Beads and say that Leela couldn't find it either, but actually Leela's very impressive, just with barely any nodes. This was 0.1 million nodes. I don't see any lower than that, but Leela was seeing the whole line just like that. So yeah, pretty impressive, you've got to say. But bishop takes e5, what on earth is this about? Well, Dragon played the move king takes e5, which looks, you know, very reasonable indeed. Just, you know, keep everything together. If d takes c5, then actually what you're doing is you're playing this move c5. And after queen b7, you've got a couple of ideas. d6 is very strong. Also b6 is very strong indeed. The key idea actually is that I think in all of these lines you've got to sort of wish away this bishop on g3, or in any case, you know, take it out of your consciousness, because it's doing absolutely nothing to help the black king. And the white pieces are lining up. I mean, either you're going to clear the way for these pawns to advance, or you're going to open lines and get the major pieces in. And, well, all that you're left with are these rather disconnected pieces and this king that's, you know, well, extremely open with all of its pawns far moved forward. But somehow the fact that the bishop's on g3, you just look at it and say, this can't be possible. It can't be possible. But yeah, it's just in terms of the forces that are really taking part in the battle. Yeah, white's not a piece down. So this was, you know, quite amazing. I'll just show you one amazing line. It's just, you just have to trust me that this is all good for, really all good for white. I can barely believe it, but it really is true. Yeah, if you take on b6, I just take like this, and I'm just threatening rook c6 and rook c7 here. And if you go rook c8, actually it's very powerful. Just one of these amazing ideas. I just swap off the queens, takes, and then I'm going c7 and b7 and b8 and c8. And it's very similar. If you go rook h7, there's this amazing move rook cd2, just preparing to just push the pawns forward. And if you go c takes b6, then I simply go queen c6 check again. And yeah, again, this is just absolutely incredible, this line that this wins. I mean, you know, you're threatening c takes b6, which is the key thing, so you have to destroy that pawn. But then it turns out that you go rook d7. If king g6, you've got rook d6 checkmate. And if you go king g8, I just check and go c7 and queen. Just so many of these amazing things that, you know, when I look at it, at the position, and you know, my intuitive brain reacts, it just says this, you know, this can't be true, right? But yeah, it somehow is. It's absolutely amazing. So king takes c5, and then you might sort of say, well, you know, what on earth am I doing here? Well, sorry, twitchy hand there, c5. That's what we're doing. What's the point? Well, if queen b8, for example, if you're just sort of trying to keep it tight at the back, maybe you can take a little moment and think what Stockfish wants to play, what Dragon wanted to play as well. It's pretty cool. It's the move king b1 with the threat of queen a1 checkmate. Yes, exactly. Pretty cool. And if you go king f6, we take and we go e5 check. And yeah, again, you know, the key problem for black here, it looks all so slow, but yeah, all these pieces are discoordinated. This bishop is not going to get into any reasonable way to cause any problems, and because the king's so exposed, everything that you do somehow is causing more problems. So you're threatening rook c7 and queen d7 here. And queen g8, e takes d6 is also, well, it's very similar to what we get in the game, so I'll just leave it there. But again, you know, you're just pushing pawns and grabbing ranks with your rooks, and the king is just getting completely killed. So, well, black plays d takes c5, which looks pretty sensible. And now white plays d6. So, I mean, you've sacrificed a pawn on b4, then a bishop on e5, and now two more pawns. And what are you trying to do? You're just trying to clear the way for your pieces. And how are you clearing the way for your pieces? Well, I mean, I looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different moves here on top. But yeah, none of them were particularly doing anything at all. It's the same idea all the way. C takes d6, we go queen b3. And there's some very powerful ideas in here. One powerful idea is to play the move queen f7 when rook d5 check is winning, and also queen e7 mate is a threat. So very shogi style. I always say this when you're sort of surrounding the king from multiple sides. You know, that's essential to shogi. Checking the king is normally, you know, checking the king across the board is normally a bad thing in shogi, because the kings are able to escape forwards and hide in the opponent's half of the board. Not quite the same in chess, but still, this surrounding always reminds me of shogi. And so this threat of queen f7 is really, really serious. So I mean, either you've got to play something like rook f8, or you go king f6. But the points are the same in any case. Here there's a little diversion of opinion. Actually, Stockfish has two moves. One is plus 6.29, the other one is 6.27, and Leela prefers the second one, but it makes no difference at all. E5 check is what Leela wants, with the idea of d takes e5, queen d5, and you're just looking to play queen d7 and rook d6 check. I actually think it looks a little bit simpler than what Stockfish did, but yeah, for Stockfish, who cares really? Complicated is not quite the same concept for him as for us. Yeah, if you do something like king g7, again it's just this whole ranks and files story. Just rook d6, queen b8, queen e6, and we're just invading all over the place. So queen d5 played by Stockfish, hitting the rook on a8 here. Rook hh8 from Dragon. It's going to be the same answer all the time anyway, so don't worry about it. E5 check. And now, yeah, I mean, after d takes c, if you go d takes c5 here, then the idea, I guess, is to meet here with maybe something like rook d8, and you're sort of covering the d file there. But now we come in with the c file. We play rook takes c5, and of course we're just threatening rook c6 check here. And yeah, again, never quite seen a position where, the fact that these pawns are far advanced, the exposure of the ranks makes such a huge difference. And yeah, again, you notice how little this bishop on g3 is doing. I mean, you're going to see there are sort of, desperado sacrifices of the bishop on f2 or e1, but that's all there is. There's absolutely nothing positive to do with that bishop. So after king g7, I think this was the move now, and maybe you want to sort of stop and see whether you can find Stockfish's move, which is absolutely the most accurate and really quite amazing. This was really the move that I absolutely loved, that really made me go, wow, 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 wow. And it's the move queen e6, simply creeping forwards towards the black king. I mean, you're threatening stuff like queen f6 check, and also allowing the rook to come to d6 there. I thought that was absolutely incredible, that move, I have to say. And well, if you go rook d8, actually Stockfish was looking at check here, and then just e6. Just queen b7, I go check, and then e7. Amazing little play with the queen and the rook, and it's just completely winning. I mean, I'm threatening queen g6 mate, and also e takes d here, so yeah, just completely winning. So many familiar geographical motifs, but somehow, yeah, incredible that they can happen with such a disparity in material. Well, rook h6 was played by Dragon, and in principle it's a decent move, right? I mean, you've sort of got some sort of barrier now, and also some sort of protection along the third rank. But this is now the amazing part of the combination, because Stockfish isn't really playing for mate now. Stockfish is just playing to queen pawns. So e takes d6. And yeah, I mean, we're just threatening d7, and we'll have rook takes c5, and that sort of stuff is going to happen. And it's an amazing switch from trying to mate to just trying to queen a passed pawn. And again, this really is a beautiful example in lack of coordination of major pieces compared to these guys, and weakness of the king compared to this guy who's in perfect shape. So queen d8 was played by Dragon. Again, I've looked at hundreds of moves here, but yeah, it's all the same story. So we might as well focus on the main line, which is the most beautiful. And now again, if you want to stop the video and try and work out what Stockfish did, then by all means, again, another move that I just I'm looking and saying, really. It's b6 was played. Beating a pawn down. and Stockfish is just, calmly pushing a past pawn. What's the idea? The idea is if queen b6, we're diverting the queen back over there, and we just go queen e5 check, and rook takes c5, and we've got rook c7, we've got queen f5, we've got d7 coming in, and rook h2 check. I just come back to b1, no worries. What can you do to me? Yeah, my king's open, but somehow shielded by these pawns, and by the white major pieces. This king somehow incredibly open, even though you might think it's slightly more shielded than white's. So yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's just kind of difficult, really. I mean, if you do something like, for example, a4, just pushing some pawns, I just go b7, a3, and king b1, and rook b8. I take and go rook c5. I mean, nothing complicated at all. b3, I go rook c8, and rook h2 check, king g7. Black's threatening perpetual check here. But we just go rook c8 to cover that, and well, that's the end of that. Yeah, I mean, beautiful stuff there. So bishop e1 was played by Dragon. There we are. We're using that bishop as a desperado. The amazing thing is that very often Stockfish was just ignoring it, letting it come to c3, and the king moves back, and we get on with our lives, But in this case, Stockfish just played queen e1. Just taking that, queen f6 check. Obviously, if queen b6, I just go check and rook takes c5 again. That's the idea. So black takes the opportunity to defend the king. Well, bring the queen to the defense of the king with check. The only problem now is that we've got passed pawns, and we've got rook c5 coming in. Yeah, I mean, again, the black pieces, the rooks, they're just not coordinating well. So king g7 was played, rook takes c5, queen g6 check, hoping to maybe do something with some checks and all that. But now this move, rook f5, really just blocks everything. And of course, it's not only blocking, I mean, it also carries the seeds of disaster once this pin is removed with queen e5 and there. So rook e8, queen d2. Yeah, I mean, we're just threatening b7 and d7 simply. So queen e6 played, queen b2, king h7, rook g5, threatening mate on g7. Still no checks, amazingly enough. Queen d7, and now rook takes a5, and well, the writing's on the wall. We're just threatening rook a7 here. So, well, Dragon gave it up now. Rook e6, rook a7, takes, rook e1, and queen c1. Finishing in beauty, and a few moves later it was checkmate with several queens. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. It's simply, to me, it's one of the most amazing combinations I've ever seen. Simply, I keep on saying that, and you keep on discovering more and more stuff like this in engine games. But it really is true. I mean, this really goes beyond what I would have believed possible. And I can tell you, I've got a pretty lively imagination. But very typical, of course, of Stockfish. Where time gets short, it somehow manages to calculate, astounding things. But I was very impressed with Leela as well. Very low nodes. Saw the whole line basically and assessed it properly as well. So yeah, that gives some hope to the Leela fans. But yeah, I mean, just this move is just unbelievable, and the finish, the general finishes, but the idea that you're just giving up 2 pawns, and then here a quiet move actually, and just preparing to encircle the black king, and then everywhere you go, it's more line clearing sacrifices, and just the geometry simply, the ranks, the black king that's not protected by pawns, the rooks and the queens, the black rooks and queens that can't coordinate, and the white pieces that coordinate so well, and an extra piece that's kind of a big pawn. Made me think actually, I've been doing a lot of work on the Deep Blue against Kasparov game, so I might do a series on that sometime. And there was one game that in the 1996 match that Deep Blue lost, and they said that that was due to a bug in the evaluation, they called it. I mean, it's a sort of a slightly loaded term, really. Bug, I mean, it was simply incorrectly done, basically, or incorrectly thought out, but the end, Deep Blue did what it was told. But basically, they got the idea of outposts a little bit wrong, and as well as making knight outposts strong, they made Deep Blue believe that the bishop outpost was strong. So against Kasparov in that second game of the 1996 match, it was trying to put a bishop on c3 protected by a pawn on d4, but it was absolutely useless. It was doing absolutely nothing. And obviously engines are much brighter than this nowadays, but it just the idea just made me think of that it's an extra piece, and when you're looking at the board, you're that extra piece is always increasing your disbelief that all this can happen. But it's really is a useless piece on a useless outpost there, and it's just not affecting the struggle at all. To all intents and purposes, black is not a piece up, but just very hard to spot. But the move I really loved was Queen E6 as well. And what I was so impressed about was this sudden switch to just queening pawns. All that attack, and then the next wave of attack comes, and now it's just about queening pawns. Absolutely amazing. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm keeping an eye on the TCC Swiss at the moment, and I'll probably look at a few games from there, and there's the CCC Rapid that's starting, and obviously there've been some great matches between Stockfish and Torch, and Stockfish and Leela at fast time controls. So I'll have a little look at some of those as well. Maybe try and pick out some games. So much happening. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you like the video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, and take a look at my new books, Silicon Road to Chess Improvement and Reengineering the Chess Classics. If you're a Chessable course user, and if you've coincidentally bought my course, Study Chess with Matthew Sadler, or indeed any others, but especially Study Chess with Matthew Sadler, then why not give a vote in the Chessable Awards? That would be cool. But otherwise, thanks very much for watching. Really glad to have so many nice viewers on the channel, and hope to see you at the next videos. Thanks for watching.